Hey guys, Winslow Bent here. Welcome back to another episode of This Old Truck. Got a really cool 1926 International Model 54 to show you today. This thing is a true piece of history. Back in the 1920s, if you needed to move something big, heavy, nasty, you needed one of these trucks. Today, I'm here with the caretaker of this truck, John Holst. John, how are you?
Good.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
I tell you, I am not by any means an expert on this truck. I don't know if there's any experts still alive on this truck, but it is a pleasure to be here and to see this old girl. I mean, this thing is amazing. And the fact that you guys have it, that you're caretaking this piece, and tell me why. You say I'm the caretaker of this. I like that. What's going on with that?
Well, this truck was owned by the Lemons family, who were in the house moving business, have owned it for many, many, many years. And one brother was a great friend of mine, and he passed away a few years ago. And we're just trying to take care of it and keep the memory alive. And so every chance we get, we go grab it and drive it and start it and just try and keep it out in the sight so people can see it.
The fact that it still exists is amazing. Every single scar on this thing tells a story. And I love that it's not perfect, that it's not all shiny and like a museum piece, that it just has this look and this patina that's like absolutely fantastic. Well, let's take a look at the heart of this beast. This appears to be a 4-cylinder engine. It's a gasser. What else can you tell me about it?
This is an overhead valve engine, which was very rare for the time period. It has a partial forced lubrication system. What that means, normally engines in this vintage had what they call a splash system. So the crankshaft actually had cups on it. As it went around, it would actually splash the oil up onto the cylinder walls and on some of the other moving parts. Because this engine has overhead valves, it also had to have a subsidiary of a forced oil system so that it would oil the upper end of the engine.
So because it has overhead valves, you need a way to push the oil on the top. The simple splashing mechanism that you'd see on, I don't know, Ford Model A's and Model T's and stuff wouldn't work for this particular engine.
Exactly, because you have to feed oil to the rocker arm assemblies up above the valves.
You know, flathead engines were nice because they were cheap to produce. I think it really says something about International deciding to go with the overhead valve design. These guys were committed to a more expensive way, certainly, of producing the engine, but I think the trade-off was probably power, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly, more power and torque. It's a more efficient way to get the exhaust gases out of the cylinders, and for that reason it produces more power and more torque.
There are some question marks that I have. First of all, on the front, I would expect to see a water pump, and there's no water pump on this thing. There's just this fan sitting out here. How is this thing staying cool?
That's an interesting, notable item, because a lot of engines back in this vintage did not have water pumps. They used the convection theory of transfer of heat. As hot water rises, it uses that convection to circulate the water through the radiator.
The other thing that's wild is that the radiator's the whole front clip of the car. The front clip is the radiator, but this is cast iron. That looks like it's probably 300 pounds.
Yes, the whole radiator, other than the core itself, which is copper, is cast iron. So it's very, very, very heavy duty.
Tough son of a gun, I can only imagine. This thing was rated for about 40 horsepower. And I think one of the things that's interesting, the maximum operating speed of this engine, 1,350 RPM.
Yeah, it's very, very low RPM, very long stroke engine. What that means is the piston travels a long way up and down, and that's gives you more torque. But because of that, because of the moving parts and the long distance, you can't have a high RPM engine or the engine will just come apart.
So how do you get from 40 horsepower to something that is moving barns down the road? And of course, the answer is gear reduction.
Exactly.
So with this thing, slow and steady wins the race. And as we go through the various steps down in gearing, we're getting more and more torque to those rear tires. So if you're not in a hurry and you have enough gear reduction, 40 horsepower can move about anything you want.
That's exactly right. Multiplying torque is how vehicles basically work to this day. It's the same principle. But this truck actually has 3 different ways that it multiplies the torque. It has a main transmission, it has an auxiliary transmission, and then you can also change the gearing by changing the sprockets. in the back of the truck on the differential.
All right, coming around to the back of this old International, this is what I think is probably the coolest part of the whole truck, is the chain drive. So you were just talking about this gear multiplication. Check this out. I mean, even if you don't know anything about trucks, my Lord, this is absolute, look at this chain, it's ridiculous. And here's the sprocket we were talking about. And I know that this one's got 14 teeth on it because I counted it. I haven't counted the sprocket back here, but the basic idea is that this is going to have to spin a number of times before the back wheel spins once. So if this spins 4 times, for this to turn once, you're going to have a 4-to-1 reduction. If, for example, you had 100 foot-pounds of torque coming into this, you're going to have 400 foot-pounds going out the back side. Truly, this was the heavy mover, and I bet you only use this when you had something big and heavy to do.
Absolutely.
You know, you're not taking this to town just for giggles.
She's a heavy mover.
And I tell you, nothing looks business like that. But second would probably be these old wheels and tires. Look at this. So this is not a pneumatic tire. This is a solid rubber tire. Basically, you could put as much load as you want in this tire and it's never going to blow out. The downside of it, probably doesn't ride very well.
Right, very poorly. Temperature makes a lot of difference. If the tire's warm, you'll get a little bit of give in that hard rubber, but not much.
And then look at the wheel. I mean, this is a solid cast piece. And do you know what these hooks are for here?
Those hooks, or if you want to put on chains.
How do you slow this thing down?
It actually has pretty good brakes, which is kind of amazing.
It's probably mechanical, right? It's
Yes,
not hydraulic.
Exactly. They're amazingly good brakes, which is good.
If you say so, I believe you, but I think we need to check it out. In fact, speaking of checking it out, you told me this thing runs.
Yes.
What do you think my chances are of being able to drive it?
At least 50-50. We'll give her a shot.
I guess that all depends if we can actually get it started. We've been talking about how tough this thing is. Let's hook something up and see what happens. All right, now we're gonna try and get this thing fired up. Old trucks like this, as far as their ignition system, have a magneto. So
Correct.
we need to put the magneto to the on position. There's no battery, so the magneto, as it turns over, is gonna create some electricity. That's gonna fire sparks, and it should fire up. This looks like a little aftermarket edition here. What's this, the choke?
That's a choke.
Okay.
This is the throttle.
Wait, what?
This piece of wire is the throttle.
Nice.
I mean, the foot feed works as well, but being housed, you have to start it from the outside.
So if I want cruise control, I can just wrap this around here. Okay. Well, look, if all we're doing is 18 miles an hour, what's the worst thing that could happen? And then for your crank start, this crank here goes to the front of the engine, right? And you push this in, and we're going to find an engagement position. There it is. So now it's engaged. And you know, I got to tell you guys, I did try and start this one time when Old Man Lemon was alive. And I'm a pretty big guy. I'm 220 pounds. And so he said, oh yeah, why don't you try starting it? So I'm sitting here trying to get it to kick over. And I couldn't get this thing to start. And Old Man Lemon comes up, and this guy looked like he was 100 pounds dripping wet, just made out of barbed wire and kerosene. And he's like, yeah, you kids don't know what you're doing today. Boom, one hit, the thing's running. And it was like the most humbling experience. These guys, not only are the trucks tough, but the guys that operated these things were just tough as nails. So here we go, put my thumbs up, and
Just about.
oh, so close. Guys, this is tough. This is tough. I'm gonna keep giving it a go here, but I'm trying to give you some appreciation for how hard this thing is, and part of it feels like it wants to kill me. But then again, my curiosity got the better of me today. We got the magneto on.
Yep.
Choke's on.
Yep.
Okay. Ready? Contact. Gotta make sure the fuel's on.
Oh, didn't we turn the fuel on? Sorry about that, Winslow. You don't have to do your powerlifting. You don't have to do your powerlifting.
All right, let's try and fire this thing up.
There you go.
Listen to it purr, my God. She's a little bit of a shaker.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it actually runs out pretty good. You want try and find reverse and see if we can back up to a trailer?
All right, go for it.
This is too cool. This is absolutely too cool. Check this thing out. It runs. There it is. Check this out.
Hit her. Back. Crank her a little more. A little more. A little more.
Up.
There it is. Got her.
You really start to hear everything's warming up now. Oil's moving through the engine. Got the trailer hooked up. As soon as he lets off the clutch, you see that chain tighten up. This thing just like gets after it, man. Unbelievable. It's so cool. Oh my God. That is just a bad mamba jamba. Yeah, man, you could pull absolutely anything you wanted to, as long as you're not in a hurry. All right, in case something goes wrong, there's no door, so I can get out of here in a hurry. But give this a whirl, clutch in, and try and find a gear. Okay, I found a gear. No idea what gear it is. There she goes. Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I feel like how cool that thing is. There would be
Wow. John, unbelievable. 20 seconds of heaven right there. My God. As an old truck guy, there's nothing like that. The feel, I mean, you feel every single stroke of the engine just pulling you. It's just an incredible feeling of power and torque. Like, I feel like I can pull anything. Like, I'm just like, hook me up to something real heavy, man. Let's go for it.
We put that trailer, laid that trailer on there. It didn't even move the suspension.
No, and obviously there's nothing on this trailer right now, but the trailer itself is, well, how much does the trailer weigh?
Oh, that trailer weighs 10,000,
10, 11,000 pounds. Nothing. I'm like, bring it. I feel like the strongest guy in the world. I love it. This is so cool. Thank you so much. Hey, if you guys like what you've seen today, be sure to click subscribe, click like, press that notification bell if you want to be the first person to see more cool episodes of This Old Truck. I'm Winslow Bent. Thanks for watching. Yeah! How cool is that? Listen to it just purr away. You can literally hear it's going at such a slow RPM, you can hear the pistons moving up and down. Just cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. Freaking awesome. And I didn't blow my thumbs off either. Nice.